All right, well, I'm at it once again. This does kind of look familiar, doesn't it? So, basically, this is the same silver car. We did the install, and I showed you the startup on that motor. But that motor is this motor right here, okay? Um, somebody needs one, so I'm helping them out, and they got a motor now. So, I had another motor that was sitting over here in this corner. I did the install. I didn't figure I needed to video that a second time. I just got done basically topping off all the fluids. It's got a fresh oil change. I'm just reusing the transmission fluid that came out of this transmission right here. Okay. And this transmission tested good. That's the first transmission that came out of this car. That one tested good. That's probably a good... All right. Battery died on me. So anyway, like I was saying, both of these transmissions tested good. That's the gear set that was out of the blue car that was wrecked. If you watched any of those videos, you'll see that. So I've had this motor. It was over here on the floor. I kind of grabbed that one, and I grabbed this transmission out of a car that I had parted out earlier this year that had a damaged clutch in it. The spring actually popped out of an ACT clutch and locked it, and it would not disengage. So I have no idea if this transmission's any good, but I figure I might as well test it. I did pull the shift selector off of it when I had got it to look down inside to see if it had any extenders or anything, or if I could see any damage, and everything looked fine. So I just resealed it and shoved it off to the side. So right now we have nice clean oil. I got to remove the funnel and put the fill plug in. There's the old oil I drained out of this. Like I said, this motor was sitting over here for almost 2.5 years, and we are ready to see if it will run. I'm pretty sure I got everything hooked up. All right, so just double check. Yep, I got to tighten up the alternator belt. I like to try to keep the alternator working. I have the belt on, so I'm just going to snug that up. Everything else is tight. I think that's the last two things. But I did kind of want to get this on video too. So I'm going to do these two things. I'm going to get everything out of the way. I'm going to go through the priming procedure. I'm going to unplug the coil and the fuel pump. And we're going to crank the motor over, get oil flowing through it, show you that. And then I'm going to plug in the fuel pump. We shouldn't have any problems now because we eliminated the really poor rewire. And then we're going to fire this thing up. I did pull the plugs. All the plugs look like they were new. We used everything from the other motor, which would include the intake, the coil, wires, wiring harness, and everything else. I did also check the timing on this. This motor does have cams. I think they're Crowler Stage 2s. Crowler Stage 2 cams, ARP head studs. I don't know if there's anything in the bottom end. I didn't get a chance to pull the pan, but I figure at this point right now, I'm going to get it running and see what it does. And hopefully you enjoyed looking at the side of my head. All right, here we go. I'm going to crank it over and get the oil flowing through it before I fire it up. Fail. Tighten this battery up. I have the battery all charged, so we should be good actually. Okay, well, you got to see the engine crank over. I ended up changing out the crank sensor, so I had to pull the I pulled the throttle body and I got the starter out of the way, and that seemed to be what my issue was. But I also had the upper turbo oil feed line was loose, So we had a mess. I must have pumped a quart of oil out on the ground. You don't see it when you're in the car. I was cranking it over, trying to get it started. It was like, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like it was trying to start. So that was last night. And today, well, last night I got to the point where I got that done. I tightened that up. I had just cycled the key over, cranked it over, and it did start. So, started up for a second. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start it up again, see how it's going to run, and then I'm going to try to run it through the gears to see if this transmission that we installed is actually going to go through the gears. So you guys can get a view from the toolbox. Check this out, okay? Hopefully I can get these guys seeing this. Okay. Speedometer, shifter, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, down to fourth. Third gear pop out. Now goes into third and it doesn't pop. Every time, okay? So this transmission, if you needed to use this, third gear extender might work just fine for this, and you wouldn't have any issues. You would be able to drive on this transmission for quite some time. So, all right, well, hey, another quick test on another motor. And it runs, and we found out we have some transmission issues with another transmission, even though we got two good ones. But this is what you need to do. Like, you know, you might be able to pull that apart and see that you had some issues with that and kind of know, but there was really no sense in tearing it apart till you knew you had an issue, which is why I like to put this stuff in a car and test it out. That way I know. All right, well, that's that. I could try throwing an extender in the transmission. If I have one laying around, I could look, or I can just pull it out and I'll write on it. I think an extender will fix this one if someone needs training. There's a transmission that's, you know what I mean, if someone needed something cheap. See ya.